Hello there. Welcome to this episode of Force Ghost Conversations. This is your host, Anthony King, and this week I'm going to take a deep dive look into Willow Episode 2 titled The High Alduin. Before we get started, I'm inviting you to join the conversation with us. We can be found on Twitter and Hive at Force Ghost Pod. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok just by searching Force Ghost Conversations. We look forward to connecting with you on those platforms. Also, please be sure to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on your listening site of choice. Finally, please be sure to check out our TeePublic store in order to purchase some Force Ghost Conversations merchandise of your own. And without further ado, it is time to gather around the campfire for some Force Ghost Conversations. Okay, everyone, welcome back to another installment of Force Ghost Conversations. And as you probably surmised, we are continuing with our weekly, episodically, whatever you want to call it. We're going episode by episode through all of Willow. And I hope that you are enjoying all of the fun at home as much as I am. We just got two great back-to-back episodes of Will that really set the story up well, has great pacing, excellent characterizations and development of those characters, is a strong continuation from the first film into this sequel series. And at the time of this release, episode 3 has already come out. And I know people have already been raving about it who have already seen the episode via screeners. So I cannot wait to watch it when I get home from grad school this evening. But to keep up with our weekly or episodically released episodes, this is when we are releasing our episode 2 discussion, if you will. So be on the lookout for the Sunday when our episode 3 conversation will come out as well. So just be on the lookout for that. And we thank you for listening and for sharing the show. It's been great to have all these wonderful Willow discussions with each and every one of you on our social media channels, and also to go on other podcasts too. We recently were on Reading Between the Reels with Craig Dickinson to discuss the original classic Willow film. So that was excellent and a wonderful time talking with Craig. So if you have the time and you want to continue the Willow conversation in the vein of the classic original film, be sure to go check out that podcast. And I don't think you'll regret it. It's a wonderful conversation. Craig's a great dude. So yeah, that's a slight plug there for all of that. But again, thank you all for listening, for sharing the show, and for continuing to have wonderful conversation space that is Force Ghost Conversations for these types of deep dive discussions overall. So with that, folks, just some more housekeeping. Because this is a mid-week episode release, we will not be doing Cloud City Gossip during this time. However, rest assured, if any news is dropping this week, we will be sure to cover it on our Sunday episode, which will cover Willow episode 3 in great detail. So get ready for that. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe, rate, review the show, tell your friends about us and all that stuff. You know, we love to continue to grow those seats at the campfire here. And this is certainly a great entry point to Force Ghost Conversations, as if you're into Willow. Of course, we have a few Willow episodes right now on the podcast feed, but if you're into Star Wars too, you can go check out all of our recent 60 plus episodes over the last year about all things Star Wars, Andor, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Book of Boba Fett, Star Wars Celebration. It's all there. So just go check out our recent episodes. I don't think that you will regret it whatsoever. So with that, let's dive into the discussion on episode 2 of Willow. And this is called The High Alduin, right? If you recall from the first film, there is this kind of magical sorcerer leader, if you will, of the Nelwyns, the race that Willow is a part of. And that is what Willow is trying to do, is become the apprentice to the High Aldwin. The High Aldwin is magical, uh, wielding magic wielding person who is of great stand. He has great stand in the community of the Nelwyns. Very highly respected, regarded, at least from what we were told. I'm sure we'll get some more information about what the High Aldwin actually does in this series, because that's pretty ripe storytelling. It's certainly tip of the iceberg, if you will. So I think we're going to get a lot more into that one. But we learn in this episode that Willow is now the High Aldwin. He's become a great sorcerer. He's done the work needed to become this excellent hero that he set out to be, and he's achieved all of his goals from the first film. He wanted to become a great sorcerer. He wanted to become High Aldwin. He at least wanted to be his apprentice. He knew the answer to the High Aldwin's challenge, the finger trick, the finger test, if you will, as what we will see Laura Dannon uh, face in this episode too, right? The power to control the world is in which finger? It's in my finger, right? It's I have the choice to make this change, and that's make this happen, right? This is things that we know as a audience base that has watched the first film, but of course, Elora does not pass the test. So we're going to get into all that as we talk about the episode here, but that really just the title makes sense. And I think in an overall grand perspective standpoint too, you have to think here, if you're looking at the archetypal characters of what these this group is now, we've got our fellowship set here, right? Borman, um, Willow, we've got Graydon, Kit, Jade, Elora Dannon, and of course, Silas. I think that covers all of them. But in this time, Willow is now the older, wise sage that is accompanying the group on their journey, and he is this teacher, whereas Elora Dannon is now the mentor. So that's really cool. So we're going to see this kind of change of dynamics from the first film, which is going to be really interesting. It's almost going to be like in the sequel trilogy, where we had to see Luke Skywalker do a bit of training um, to Rey. Right, the roles have been reversed here. He's no longer the student; he's now the master, teaching magic to Elora Dannon. So I think that's a great place to have us set here. It's a slower episode compared to the first one, but it's full of rich character, intrigue, and development that I think will have long lasting standing for the rest of the series. So the episode is directed again by Stephen Wolfenden, who did the first episode as well, and it is written by Bob Dolman, who actually wrote the original film back in 1988. So that's pretty cool. I like that there's that neat connection between the past to the present, and who else to be a part of this series. I would be hopeful that he would be at least in some way, shape, or form an executive producer, if nothing else. But I'm glad that he actually was able to write an episode for this series, and maybe he does more later on. I don't know. I don't really look ahead to see who's going to write episodes if that's been announced yet. But I think that's just neat, and it's also great for John Caston to have that other voice in the room. Maybe he knew what potential sequel plans were at the time if Willow was a major box office success, right? These are things that probably were in place at the time and never just came to fruition. So I wonder if that has some influence overall in what the series is going to be doing. Yeah, maybe. Hard to say. But episode 2 does this big episodic flashback to start. Willow comes to Tiras Lean to check in on things. He wants to see what Sorsha is up to and all that. So, and also to see what Elora Dannon is doing. But Willow has a very dark prophecy that he wants to share. He has this nightmare vision. I'm going to keep calling it that. It's a dark future that shows like how they're able to. It's a little confusing to me a little bit here, like at points, because I think he's withholding some information here, whether it's he's accurately 100% truthful about what he's able to see. And I mean, he gets this nightmare vision, it seems like pretty frequently, where he basically sees the end of the world, or if it's like the way for us to have our salvation at the end of all things after this great climactic final war. It's yet to be said. Like, of course, visions can always be misinterpreted, misunderstood as we go throughout our years and as more experiences. And of course, always in motion the future is. I mean, there's no set way that this could actually be the future until it actually happens. So this is all just potential things. It's a potential timeline, right? If you believe in, um, oh golly, I believe it was Doctor Strange, right, where our dreams are multiverses that are existing. This is just one potential timeline that could come to pass. But overall, I love the de-aging work that is done on Work Davis in this sequence. If there is any, this could have just been makeup, frankly. I don't know. Sorsha too also looks really great too. I think that could have been some de-aging too, but it looks like it's taken place maybe a couple, 5 or so, 6, 7 years after the events of the first film, because Laura Dannon is slightly older here. But I will say the goatee is superb on Willow. It's an excellent facial hair addition, if you ask me, to his already excellent mane. His hair, he's got that neat hat on. Um, and he suggests that Laura Dannon needs to be trained, right? He kind of rejects the fear-based mentality that Sorsha is taking here. Um, but I can't really blame Sorsha. She went through this traumatic experience with her mother, and she feels a great strong protection for this child here because it's what brought her this family that she now has. So she kind of sees Alordan as her own kind of family in a way. But Willow also, because she's just as much yours as she is mine. So he wants to have a stake in basically how they're trained or how she is raised. This is kind of co-parenting, if you will, between the two of them. And he's like, I'm High Aldwin now. I can train her in great sorcery because Finn Rizal and Cheryl and Drea are gone. They use up the last bit of their strength, their magic, in order to put up that barrier to protect Tira. Mad Mardigan has been sent by Sorsha to go out beyond the barrier to find the Chimerian cuirass, which is something that is within legend and lore. This incredible armor piece that will hopefully bring about some salvation here. Now, that's an interesting plot thread that I hope comes to pass because Borman obviously survives. He's the squire that goes along with him. He's in jail, of course, at the first scene or in the first episode, and he's released to accompany this fellowship group on their journey. But there's something going on there. I mean, it's not necessarily stated that Mad Mardigan is dead. So I don't know how this is all going to pass at the Val Kilmer of it all, if he's recast or if he actually is killed off screen or something like that. I thought he was dead coming into the series. So that wasn't something I was expecting to see at all. I thought they mentioned that in some maybe interview or maybe at Star Wars Celebration. That's kind of the sense that I got from all this, but I can't really be too sure about that. But there, he basically says that like Alora needs to be trained, she needs to be able to protect herself, otherwise she'll forget her magic abilities. I mean, that's pretty true to real life here. If we forget, if we don't nurture things like our talents and our abilities, right? If you learn to play guitar, right, you have to put in the practice, the effort, the work. Otherwise, it'll just drift off as time goes on. You'll lose things, you'll lose technique, you'll lose muscle memory, your stamina, your ability to do that over time. And you'll have to work just as hard again to reclaim what you once lost, if not even harder. Because things are actually harder when you try to relearn them later on, as I think many of us at home can understand. But Sorsha is really mean here, and this ties back into something that was in the first episode too, where she's mean to her children. She definitely has these aspects of Queen Bavmorda still within her. She makes note of that too. I mean, she's very apparent. It's like, I still have the spirit of my mother in me, for better or for worse. Like, there's nothing I can really do about that. So I can just try my best to reject that part of my heritage in a way. But she is definitely so mean here when she's like, "You're not great. You're not a great source." Why is she being mean to him? There's no reason for that. She's just making choices out of fear again. And that seems to be a consistent theme within these first two episodes, is in the fear-based decision making. Because we come to it and then it's Laura Dana doesn't even know who she is. She doesn't even have a name, right? She's this nameless character. She's given a pet name, a love pet name, Dove, by Eric. And this girl has to learn who she is over again. Like, that's crazy. So honestly, I understand where I don't, I understand why Warwick Davis Willow runs out of Tira after trying to talk to Laura Dannon later on, and just how bullyish that Sorsha can be. That definitely exhibiting some signs of her mother there. And I wonder if Mad Mardigan was there, he would have stepped in and been like, hey, let him go. Maybe he'd been that other third voice in the room that would have said something otherwise. But, when she's with the Daikinis, it almost seems like Sorsha has like one leg up on Willow when it comes to that. But he goes off to the Nelwyn village. They're basically underground again, which is an interesting thing because the world is not a safe place for people. Even after the events of the first film, when you think that evil has been destroyed, clearly the weathered crone is out there. She's got the gales, and obviously no barrier strong enough to keep enemy out forever. So while Tira has been living in these comforted, very safe, protective barrier underneath this dome of this veil of protection, Willow and the Nelwyns and these other tribes and groups out here are underneath, are still fair game for these evil entities, the Bone Reavers, the golly gee, the Gales. Who knows what else is out there? What evil forces may be attacking people? So the Nelwyns had to go into these underground villages in order to more so protect themselves, which I imagine is terrible. We see Willow at the beginning of the first film, and he loves his house, his land, his crops. He's a farmer. He has a strong connection to the land, and now he has to go underground for protection. That's not great. So Tiris Lean is living on a high horse over there. Not having to deal with these, they have these privileges that they don't have to face on outside the barrier. Um, and that was all for Laura Dannon, to protect her, because she is this last hope for the world. Even though Willow has that prophecy where, in order for the world to survive, she must die. Like, I don't know if that needs to come to pass per se. So we'll see how that all plays out, because she could have been fake. She could be faking her death to get the one leg up. But the nightmare sequence is something that's really fascinating. I mean, it's certainly the darkest thing that the series has done so far overall, from even the first events of the first film. I like the look of Willow in that nightmare sequence too, where it is he's got that scraggly old white beard and all that. Man, I wonder if that's going to come to pass in a later season. Maybe it does. Maybe it's this climactic battle that we get, maybe like a third season of Willow, if we get beyond season 1. So here's hoping. But I will say, honestly, the Nelwyn village is just as cozy and charming as in the first one. It's just underground now. And I love seeing that Warwick Davis's daughter has a role in this film. Mims is the character, but it's that's Willow's daughter, and it's his daughter too. I believe their name's Annabelle. Let me confirm that, because I still have my notes from the first one. Yep, Annabelle Davis plays Mims. So Willow's got his high Aldwin outfit. He's got this great humor about him. Although the Nelwyns don't necessarily care for his humor, I certainly do. We got a Bones reference. I will consult the Bones. Willow's certainly the high Aldwin here. It's just taking these beats from the first film and putting it to the test. Praise the Bones, right? Clearly, Elora Danan has certainly forgotten all of her magic, though. She does not pass the finger test well, and all of that. So we're off to a slow start when it comes to those character beats. So she's gonna have to really put herself in a better place and do a lot of practicing to get to where she needs to be in order to fight off the Weathered Crow. So what we learn is that the Gales, the villains that serve the Weathered Crow, we learn the name of one of the creatures. The sorcerer member is named the Lish, and what he's doing is you may have recalled from the first episode, he infected Commander Ballantine, who is kind of like the chief guard of Tira-Sleen, if you will, a chief knight that really is a part of Sorsha's court, and helps to protect the realm. But the Gales find out that Elora Danan has revealed herself, and Sorsha finds out too that she has left Tira-Sleen and sends out Commander Ballantine to go save her, to bring her home, which it may not be great, because she actually sent a pawn of the Lish to go get her. Now, that's not great, because of course he turns his other buddies to serve the Lish too. So That's not great. And of course, at the end, when they capture Elora Danan, that really pays off as well. But Willow wants to keep Elora Danan in Elwyn Village in order to save her. But I mean, come on, she is lovesick. She wants to go find and save Eric. She firmly believes that uh, that whatever comes to pass, she will learn along the way, and she will do whatever she needs to do in order to save the one that she loves, which is Eric. She pronounced her love to him in episode 1, and she will go to all lengths to do so. So they want to rise to meet the challenges that lie ahead. And that's great. That's great. They're not doing fear-based decision making here. It may be, irrational what they're doing, heading headlong into a villainous group that they don't know anything about too much or have the ability to wherewithal to stand off against. They're also traversing aspects of the Willow universe, the Willowverse, mother world that they have also never been privy to seeing. So I think we're gonna probably pass by Nockmar at some point, the old castle from the first film. Who knows what we're gonna go across along the way here? But we got some wonderful, heartwarming moments between the group here. The deal is struck between Willow to teach Elora Danan about the ways of magic because they have this symbiotic relationship between them, the two of them. He needs her in order to help defeat the weathered crone, and she needs him in order to find and save Eric. Kind of works out. They have a mutual agreement here, and they journey off along with this group of fellowship members to go to the Immortal City. I mean, this is so much of the spirit of the Lord of the Rings here, and kudos to Wales for just looking gorgeous and beautiful here. I mean, this series could almost be an advertisement for the Welsh country and the countryside. It's absolutely stunning and gorgeous. And I hope it has that effect almost the way that New Zealand did for Lord of the Rings. But we'll see how much cultural impact that this Willow series has overall. I mean, it's certainly doing its work for me as a fan of this stuff to want to go out and visit that. So something else that I wanted to note that is really great here is the kind of the interpretation of magic in this series, where magic is almost like the Force, and I loved Willow's description of it to Elora Danan. It's kind of similar overall to what Obi-Wan describing the Force to Luke. It's this energy field that connects all things, and it's up to us to tap into it. Whether we practice our abilities or not, we could believe in it. We believe in ourselves. We are able to gather our strength from magic, and we can utilize that and channel it through various means. So Willow sets her up, Lordan, with her big test. It is growing this plant from the seed, but she can barely even get the way to speak the words down well. I mean, it's almost like a day or two that she's practicing this nonstop. I can only imagine that the group is just absolutely getting terrified that um, I would go nuts, frankly, if I were to overhear someone just say the same line over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. I don't know about you, but I was kind of in the seat of the other people. Where I was like, "Say it right, come on, you can do it. I believe in you." But she does. It's like riding a bike. You never until you get it the first time. It's one of those deals where you just kind of keep getting back on the bike and all that stuff. So she's doing her best. We actually get a bit more of an understanding of what it actually means to utilize magic in this world. So this is the great mentor stuff, teacher aspect of Willow that we're getting in this series that we didn't really get in the first film because of its quick nature and pacing. We learn that in addition to magic kind of being like a conduit for what the Force is, that in order to really be a master sorcerer, she needs to Elora Danan will have to get over and understand the four pillars of magic, which are the basics. These include charms, potions, concentration, and divination. She got to learn all that stuff before moving on to the advanced stuff, which is battle magic. Um, so she's definitely got the odds stacked against her. Willow has no idea how long this is actually going to take, and that time is actually also another enemy that they're facing here too, whether it be Eric's ticking clock in the Memorial City or this group from the Lish that is Commander Ballantine and his gang of knights that are hunting them down. Yeah, there's going to be some growing pains overall. But this is, I mean, in terms of the group's dynamic together too, this is just a bunch of outcasts who just met each other, or outsiders, or frankly, those that feel like outsiders too. I know that Kid is certainly not an outsider because of her standing and position, but she feels like an outsider amidst her own home because of the treatment that her mother gives her from time to time. So they're obviously bound to have some growing pains a lot of along the way, and Kit has some of her mother's stubbornness, but I still hold true that Kit and Eric are certainly the children of Mad Mardigan. I did like that sequence at the end where Graydon basically tells Alora Dannon that everyone else believes that she is capable of doing this stuff. She's capable of being a great sorcerer. She's capable of leading. They all may not show it in the same way, but they certainly do want to see and believe that she can do that. But she doesn't believe in herself. That's really what's holding her back here. She needs to have that inner self confidence to believe that she can do it, even if she didn't know that she's a Laura Dannon. She still needs to have some self confidence in Dove. She had to have some self confidence to be a great baker, right? Why doesn't she apply those same skills to that? Right? It's patience. It's focus. It's learning technique. It's learning the basics. It's not about cutting corners, right? There's a great line of symmetry, frankly, actually, from connecting baking, which I would have actually. That's kind of on the spot here. Me just thinking about that to her learning magic. I don't know if they it was in I'm sure that was probably intentional to some degree, by John Kasdan and the creators behind this series, but overall, I think that's actually kind of brilliant when you think about it in a grander sense. So I also saw some Ray parallels here too, with her saying like, "I'm just a nobody. I don't have anything. I don't have a claim to title or whatnot. I'm nothing." And come on, Laura, you are something. You are somebody. Although you didn't know who you are, that's you still have a chance to forge your own destiny, your own path. So I thought that's neat. But again, always in motion in the future is a prophecy misread could have been. I don't know if Alora Dannon actually has to die for the world to survive. So we'll see if we learn more about the nightmare sequence and all that stuff. But it's definitely hanging over Willow's head as he's teaching her, and I don't know how often he's been able to teach other people about magic too. So this may be some growing pains for all of them, just as much as I think Luke and Ray had to overcome some of that initial animosity that comes between masters and apprentices and teachers and learners and students and all that stuff. So I like the dynamics overall between these groups, and the cast again is just such a great standout. The writing is certainly giving them a lot of fertile fruit to pick from when it comes to their choices and how they're able to portray these characters that are dealing with some big themes overall for the series. We get a cliffhanger at the end of the episode. Not only does Alora start to have this plant grow more than a few inches too, which Willow was saying like, if you get it a few inches, that'll be great right now. That plant starts to grow almost fully. I mean, if it were to keep lingering on the shot there, I imagine that it would grow pretty big. It had to have been at least 2 feet tall by the end of when the camera cut out. But Commander Ballantine knocks out Alora Dan and captures her, and I don't think anyone yet knows about her disappearance. So they're going to have a good head start on wherever they take her before the group finds out that she's actually missing. And then when they realize that they're on horses, that they'll have to actually mount their own horses too instead of going two by two through the woods to hunt for her. Yikes. Yeah, that's going to leave for a very interesting aspect for where episode 3 is going to go, and I cannot wait until we're there. Her magical journey has officially reawakened, so I wonder if she's going to start like Ray when she learns her force abilities and she's able to connect with that and believe in herself a bit more. Especially in that Star Killer based sequence at the end of The Force Awakens, if she's going to have a bit more to say along the way. So we're just gonna have to figure out where this all goes. So we're gonna have this fun uh, high fantasy capture sequence, and they're gonna hunt down where Laura Dannon has been taken um, after this. So we're gonna see where this all goes, and it's gonna be fun to join the character's journey along the way. I wanted to note before we close out our episode here that the song in the credits, which I have certainly been enjoying, I hope you are too. This is really um, a neat aspect that I was not expecting for the show overall is that these end credit scenes would be uh, riddled with some great pop punk music, if you will. The song is called Hurdy Gurdy Man, which is performed by a group called Sir Jude. So if you are interested in that song, that track, be sure to go search it out on YouTube or any Apple, Apple iTunes or Spotify streaming platform that you may have. So with that, everybody, that's all that I had for my thoughts for episode 2 of Willow. We're continuing this strong run through the series. The characters are all set. I feel like they're established very well, and we're heading off on another grand adventure here. I'm sure we'll have more people join us along the way as this group carries on its journey, and we're going to be here each and every week on Forest Ghost Conversations to discuss it all. So I hope that you at home have been enjoying the series as much as I have. This has been such a treat to be able to discuss the show with each and every one of you. So I hope that you continue on the journey too with us as we go about all things Willow. So with that, everybody, be sure to continue the conversation with us on all of our social media channels: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Hive. We'd love to hear from you. Also, if you feel so inclined, be sure to share the show with a friend and continue to grow the seats around the Forest Ghost Conversations campfire. And with that, everybody, we'll be back on Sunday discussing episode 3 of Willow. May the Force be with you.